Good afternoon and welcome to K2's Road to Excellence Part 9 and our partner Sage. This is Alan Salmon and I'm pleased that so many of you are with me today. Spring has come to Brampton, Ontario. My definition of spring is when I'm able to get out on our deck and look at our beautiful forest behind us, and that happened on Saturday. Little bit of admin, of course. My good friend Marilyn Benninger is backing me up today, and she is your go-to person for technical issues and for questions. Your microphones are muted for obvious reasons. You're welcome to take notes, but be aware that Marilyn is going to send you a package of material within 10 days from today, and that will include the recording, my extensive teaching notes, the teaching files that I'm going to use, and the answers to any of the questions that you ask. And speaking of questions, you ask them through the chat window. After the webinar is over, Marilyn will collect the questions and send them to Rachel and myself. We will answer them, and the questions and answers will be in your package. And now to the important issue for many of you, and that is your CPD certificates. If you're new to these webinars, 4 times today, Marilyn is going to stop things and put up a polling question. That polling question is a multiple choice question. You don't need to get the answer right, but you need to select one and click on submit, because that time stamps. And we need that to verify your CPD. If you get 75% of the questions recorded as answered, then you'll get a CPD certificate for 1 verifiable hour. If you don't, it'll be 1 non-verifiable hour. Now today, from my perspective, is a continuation of the PivotTable webinar that I did 2 weeks ago. So Marilyn, I need some facts about our audience, so it's time for the first poll, please.
Absolutely. Good morning or afternoon, wherever you are today, folks. Your screen will have changed, in my case, to blue, maybe to you. We're asking the question, when it comes to pivot tables, what's your experience? If you've never created one, if you've created with a calculated item, if you've added a calculated field, maybe you've created a pivot table with non-identical ranges. I'm looking forward to learning what all of these are. And maybe you've created one, but not with the features that are listed above. We've got good participation. Thanks, everyone. It's the first of 4 polls. We close our polls when we're at 90%, and we're just there. So I'll be counting you down to close the poll in 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm closing the poll, and I'm sharing those results with you, Alan.
I'm reading the screen. Do you see the 4th one down, Marilyn, the 4%?
I do.
I have a dream that I will put up a polling question, and one of the answers will have 0 responses, meaning that I'm going to teach something new to every single one of the participants. I don't think it's going to happen, but you know, I can dream. All righty. So when I get my screen back, we're going to go here and here. Now, one of the questions that I was asked in the last one was, how do I preserve the formatting? And that was an issue for me way back when. And the answer is remarkably simple, but you have to know where to look. So anywhere here, I'm going to click. And then I'm going to right mouse click and go down to Pivot Table Options and look at the bottom checkbox, Preserve Cell Formatting on Update. So I suggest you take 10 seconds in the next pivot table and you make sure that is checked, and that will solve the problem. And that's when I'm less on my checklist. So This, for those of you who have never created a pivot table before, and I'm going to do this from scratch just for the benefit of those that have just logged in. What we have here is a very small data set, 3 columns, 109 rows. Typical of the way we produce Excel workbooks. But once we've created an Excel workbook, the name of the game is let's analyze things. So what would be a question that I might ask? What were the total sales for 1-inch galvanized pipe? Now, there's ways that you could do this here. You could create subtotals that would give it to you, but it's a lot of work. So instead of doing that, I'm going to create what is called a pivot table. And a pivot table is nothing more than a summary report. So key to the starting point is I need to be anywhere inside the data set, and I go to Insert, and I go to Pivot Table. And because I was inside the data set, Excel knows that the data set's boundaries are A1 to C109. Great. And I always want to put my pivot table in a new workbook. So we'll click on OK. Now over here on this left-hand side is where I'm going to create this summary report. The 4 items here, month product sales, or the 3 items I should say, are the columns in my data set. Well, I want the product down in column A, so I merely click, and there it goes. And in the quadrangle down here, notice it's put it in the row quadrant. I want month, and when I first started doing this too many years ago, I thought, well, if I can do the product with just clicking, I'll do the month. Unfortunately, it adds it to column A, so that doesn't work. However, if I left mouse click, hold it down and drag this here, now I've got it there. And of course, the same thing with sales, I want it down here. So there is a very simple pivot table. Now, what am I going to do with this? Well, I'm going to do something really, really weird, and you're going to think that Alan has finally lost it. Notice to get these numbers here, I drag down sales. There's nothing preventing me from doing that more than once. So let's do it. And we got the numbers repeated. Well, let's go for broke and do it one more time. And what you're looking at now is the most useless pivot table on the planet Earth. So why did I do that? Well, let's go here and click anywhere in column B, right mouse click and go to Value Field Settings. And you notice the default is sales, sum. Well, I want it to be account, and I'm going to change the name here. And I'm going to click on OK. Do you notice now that I have a count there for quarter 1, 2, 3, and 4? Well, how about this one? Let's right mouse click, go down to Value Field Settings. And I'm happy with it being sum, but I'm going to change the name to sales. There we go. So what are we going to do with this? I want it to be sales, so I'll retype it. There we go. Okay. Now, I suspect that some of you have already run into this problem, and that is you cannot have duplicate names. So I'm going to give you a cool solution. I'm going to go up here and hit the space bar And now watch what happens. There is nothing in the pivot table that is sales with a space. Okay. So what are we going to do with 3? We're going to go to value field settings. We're going to go down here to count. I mean average. And we're going to make this average. And there we go. I'm not going to take the time to do the formatting. That's fairly easy to do. But notice what I've got. I've got the same data, but I've got a count, I've got a sum, and I've got an average. And I could go on and do the max and the min and any of the other 12 functions that are available to me. So let's move on to this file. So what do we have here? Well, we've got an income statement with revenue and on and on. What we don't have right here is a gross margin. 2 ways to get that. We could go back to the original data set like this and include it. Or we could do this. In my pivot table, I'm going to go up here to Pivot Table Tools, and you'll notice that I have the 2 tabs, Analyze and Design, and I'm going to select Fields, Items, and Sets. Now, if you're working on Excel 2007 and 2010, this name will be not very different, but different. And I outline what that is in your handout. When I click on it, I get a number of choices. Calculated field, calculated item. I want to do a calculated item because I want to insert a row in column A. So I click and I give it a name. We'll call it GM for short. And then here we'll get rid of the equal sign and we'll create the formula, which is revenue, insert, minus cost of sales, insert, click on OK. Did you notice that it added it to the bottom, which it will always do? And there's a really easy way to get it up here, and that's to select GM, get my 4 arrows here, left mouse click, and just drag it up. And we're done. Pretty simple. So that is a calculated item. Go to this file and go here. And what I'm interested in here is what's the average of sales for Bob, Chuck, and Doug? And I have it finished here. So when we're done, I want this. So that's pretty easy to do. I'm going to go here to Pivot Table Tools, and I'm going to go to Items, and I'm going to go to Calculated Field. And we're going to call this Average. And the calculation is sales divided by units sold. Bingo. And there we go. So there's another example of the ability to do calculations inside a pivot table using, as I said, field items. All right, let's move on to the major point of today. And that is what we call consolidation pivot tables. So what I have here is the creams division, the lotion divisions, the scrub division, and the finished product, which is that. In other words, a pivot table with the sum of these. Now, before I can do this, I need to make a change. In Excel 2003, I wouldn't have had to do this. And the change is this. In my quick access toolbar, I need the pivot table and pivot chart wizard. How did I get there? Customize the quick access toolbar. Go to commands not in the ribbon. Slide down to pivot table and pivot table chart wizard. And when I click on add, it's going to give me a message that says it's already there. But you're going to need that. And once you have that there, then instead of going to insert pivot table like we've done in the past, we go to the icon and we click on it. Well, it'll help if I'm here. There we go. So I go to the icon, click, and there we go. So notice down here, multiple consolidation ranges. I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to click on next. Next. And it wants to know what the range is for creams. So we'll just highlight this and we'll click on add. We'll then go to lotions and we'll do the same thing. And finally, scrubs. Now, if you can see in the box, something I didn't point out to you at the beginning is the data sets are exactly the same, A5 to M5. Do they have to be? No. And in a moment, I'll do one that isn't. So I'm going to click on next. I want it in a new workbook. And then I have a consolidated pivot table, which is the stupidest one you've ever seen, because if you look down at row 13, when did you ever add income and expenses together? Well, that's easily solved. Going to go up here, click on Pivot Table Tools, and go over here to Design, and then over here to Grand Totals. And I'm going to click on it. And I'm going to click on for columns only, and it got rid of that, which isn't what I want. So I'm going to click on for rows only, and there we go. Now we still have a stupid income statement because it's all out of whack. So there's an easy way to fix that. Notice that I've selected revenue. I'm going to right mouse click, and I'm going to go to move, and I'm going to move it to the beginning. Okay. I'm going to take net income, right mouse click, move, and move it to the end. And then I need gross margin up a bit, so I'm going to use the same trick I did before, get the four-headed monster and put it up there. So what we have now is a consolidated pivot table or a summary of these three sheets. And I always get the question, do they have to be the same? No. But before I do that, I want to go here and answer another question that came up last time. Next, I want to deal with the question that was asked in the previous session, and that was from someone who has a non-calendar year end, particularly government and not-for-profits. And typically they're on a March 31st year end, but the default in Excel is a calendar year. So I'm going to show you a fairly easy way to modify that. And you'll notice here that I have a calendar year end. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to change this to Q4. Q1, Q2, and Q3. Now, I'm not happy that this starts with Q4, so I'm going to show you a cool way of fixing it. I'm going to go up to PivotTable Tools. I'm going to go to the field list, and I'm going to move quarters down here and products up here. And notice Q4, Q1, Q2, Q3. I'm going to go here, right mouse click, go to move, and move Q4 to the end. Well, that's pretty cool. Now let's flip these back here and this up here. And notice what we have. Q1, April, May, June, Q2, and so on. So there is one solution to the problem of non-calendar year ends. Next, I want to deal with the final issue, and that is pivoting non-identical data ranges. Now, what we have here is 3 divisions, and here's our standard chart of accounts. But product design has a new item called Central IT, and so does field testing, outsourced services. So can I create the pivot table? Absolutely. And we're going to go here and here and here. And we're going to do exactly what we did the last time. And finally, we're going to go here. And do an add. Now, if your eyesight's really good, field testing is A4 to F16, product design is A4 to F15, and prototype and modeling is also A4. So is it going to work? Let's take a look. Absolutely. So allocated central IT was only in one of the regions or one of the divisions. So it just includes that. Central IT is in all of them. So it does the sum and so on. So once in a while, I'll make use of this. So that's a wrap now for me, Marilyn. We need to do the final poll question before we bring in Rachel.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, your second of 4 questions is just launching. And it has to do with our next webinar topic, which is PDFs. When you think about PDFs and how you edit them, what are the ways that you do that? You might use Adobe Acrobat, Foxit PDF, Word. Maybe you use something else, and that would be none of the above. Or maybe you don't edit PDFs at all, in which case you don't want to miss our next session coming up in June. We're just about at 90%, so I'll be counting you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Thanks very much. I'm closing the poll and sharing the results.
Interesting. Alrighty, let's do a handoff to my good friend Rachel from Sage
Thank you so much, Alan. I appreciate it. I'm just going to start presenting and hopefully everyone can see my screen. You should see a title page, Migrating Your Data from Sage 50 to Sage Accounting. Marilyn, can you just confirm you can see it okay before I
It
continue?
looks good, Rachel.
Awesome. Thanks so much. And thank you so much, Alan and Marilyn, for inviting me to come and present. Sage and K2E have been connected for a really long time, and so it's great to be able to partner together like this as well. So today I'm going to talk about, as you can see, migrating your data from Sage 50. Now, this is specifically Sage 50 Canada. If you happen to be from the US, unfortunately, this tool is not for you, but if you do need any information, we can, of course, make sure that you have that as well. So first of all, a bit of an introduction. My name is Rachel Fish. I work on accountants and alliances here at Sage Canada. You can reach me by email at rachel.fish@sage.com, on Twitter at Fishbooks, or of course on LinkedIn at Rachel Fish. And I'm looking forward to connecting with each of you as well. So when we're talking about Sage Accounting, first of all, I wanted to kind of get that straight. I'm talking about Sage Business Cloud. Now, Sage Business Cloud is how we at Sage essentially are able to market all of our cloud portfolio products within one conversation, because the conversations that we have about cloud for a solopreneur bookkeeper are actually the identical conversations that we're having with Big Four firms and everything in between in enterprise businesses as well, when we're talking about the advantage of the cloud. But each of these are actually different products. So here you can see we've got Sage Business Cloud Accounting or Sage Accounting. Then we've got Sage Financials. We also actually have Sage Intact as well, which is a mid-market cloud-based solution, enterprise management, people payroll, and payments and banking as well. So I just wanted to kind of help you guys visualize where we are in the product set. So as I said, Sage Business Cloud Accounting or Sage Accounting, although many of you may know it as its former name of Sage One. Now, if the last time you took a look at Sage Accounting is when it was called Sage One, I would really encourage you to take another look, and we're going to be seeing some screenshots and a couple of short videos that will show you a little bit more of the product as well. Before we go into why you would want to migrate your data from Sage 50 to Sage Accounting. First of all, by using Sage Accounting, it makes your data entry super easy with three main tools. So first of all, our in-product CSV upload. So you're able to upload your bank statement information by CSV. You can also upload your customer lists and balances by CSV, your vendor lists and balances, your general ledger open balances, and even simple transactions like invoices, credit notes, bills, and bill credits can all be imported with a mass upload. So the time savings alone of those kind of data imports can be really critical. We also have some great partnerships with third-party applications like Receipt Bank and Auto Entry. Both of these do scan documents, document fetch, reporting of expenses, but they do have their differentiators as well. So Receipt Bank also has a bank connection, which will help you identify missing transactions or missing receipts. Auto Entry also has sales as well as expenses and has some really cool accountant tools as well. So there is some functionality overlap, but they do some different things as well. Another really great way to automate your data is through our bank feed and rules. So you're able to connect your bank account or your credit card account and see that come through the bank feed, as well as create rules and have that rule applied. And here you can see that green stamp in the bottom, in the left-hand corner. You can see that I've already created a rule that is applied to that tells it where I want to categorize it. You can also see how easy it is to create a rule by that blue message on your right-hand side as well. I'm really excited about the advanced user permissions that we have with Sage Accounting. So again, right now I'm just talking about what the features are for Sage Accounting and why you might want to consider migrating your data over. And there are actually over 10,000 different combinations of advanced user permissions within Sage Accounting. So when we're talking about internal controls, locking people in and out of certain modules within the product, this absolutely is able to do that for you. And of course, your data is secure. Data is redundantly stored in Canada with 128-bit encryption, the same as your typical online banking. It is GDPR ready because our head office is in the UK, and so we ensure that all of our products comply with those as well. And backups can be done through CSV file, PDF, or you can actually create a link between Sage Accounting and Sage 50 and download transactions to Sage 50 as well. And if a file is ever expired, you can ask for it to be reinstated in the case of audit. And of course, a great tip for any kind of cloud application, of course, is the mobility of it, right? Being able to work. Now, I probably would not have my laptop on my lap in a lake, but the idea is that you can work where you want and how you want, and of course, when you want. Our payroll partner is Payment Evolution, which again has the mobile app. It's able to do T4s and ROEs. It has a really powerful employee portal that can change their own employee information for things like address or bank accounts even. And so you can find more information on that on Payment Evolution. WeOut.com. We also actually find that many of our partners do payroll in Sage 50, and then we'll just do a quick journal entry to bring that into Sage Accounting as well. Another one of the more powerful features is actually our concentration on cash flow. Right from the main screen, you can see we can do a cash flow statement and cash flow forecast, and even export cash flow statement reports there as well in CSV and PDF format. With our payment integrations, we've got our receivables. So that essentially means you're going to email out an invoice. Your customer is going to receive that invoice with a Pay Now button on it. And then automatically those transactions will be recorded in your Sage Accounting, which is super powerful and easy to get paid quickly. And for your payable pricing options, we have a third-party partner with WayPay, and here you can see you can go to waypay.ca to get set up with one of their pricing options that completely integrates that with Sage Accounting as well. So whether you're talking about money coming in through receivables, Stripe Pay or PayPal, or money going out through payables, WayPay would be a really great solution for that as well. We also have advanced reporting with Sage Intelligence, and if you go to sageintelligence.com/solution/accounting, you can see all of the different features that are available through there as well. Now, you might be familiar with the term Sage Intelligence, especially if you've taken any of Ward's webinars, or we'll be coming up with some topics there as well, because it really does have some powerful tools in actually many of our products. So the one for Sage Accounting is basically like an advanced reporting where you're able to add comparative elements like year over year and percentage of totals, things like that as well. Right within Sage Accounting, you can also auto-run customer statements, so you don't have to forget about sending those out. Just set them to auto-run and they'll be good to go. And one of the newest features is our transaction status. Here you can see an invoice that was created. You can, when you hover over the created dot, you can see that it was created and when, so basically the audit information about that. You can see when it was sent and to whom. And then here you can see that to take this picture, I just hovered over the viewed. And again, it tells you who viewed it and when they viewed it as well. So it's actually time for our first polling question, or our third, I guess, right, Marilyn? So if you could go ahead and show the third polling question, that would be fantastic.
Thanks for that, Rachel. All right, folks, we're asking a question about cloud-based accounting solutions that you might use with your firm and clients. So please check all the ones that you're currently using, being Sage or QuickBooks, Xero, Wave or FreshBooks, and maybe you're not using one of the ones that it's listed. That would be fine. We just need to get a sense of who's in the call today. Oh, we've hit a hot one on that one, Rachel. Really quick, we're already at 90%. Thanks, folks.
Wow.
I'm gonna count you down now from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. I'm going to be closing the poll now, and I'll just read those results for you, Rachel.
Great.
Sage comes in at 10%, QuickBooks Online is 22%, Xero 1%, as well as Wave and FreshBook at 1%, and 70% of the folks on the call today didn't see a solution on that list that made an impact for them.
Well, maybe we can make a bit of an impact as we go through the rest of this webinar. But thank you guys so much for being so engaged and for hopping right onto that poll. So again, Marilyn, just to confirm that you can see my screen okay before I continue advancing.
You are good to go.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So now let's talk a little bit about the idea of migrating from Sage 50 to Sage Accounting. And we saw some of the top features and how powerful Sage Accounting is. And again, if you've taken a look at Sage 1 over the years, you can see that it looks way different, much more user-friendly, and some really powerful features there as well. So with Sage 50 Canadian Edition, we're actually able to migrate to Sage Accounting. So for the next 20 minutes, we're going to go over a bit of an overview as well as how to prepare your file for that migration as well. So from Sage 50, and I think that when we usually talk about Sage 50 and who would be a good fit for Sage Accounting, typically it's any company that is in Sage 50 Pro. So for those of you who use it or have clients that use Pro, it is pretty much feature to feature a really good comparison of product. Now, if you kind of go up the levels a little bit within Sage 50, we've got Premier, and then we also have Quantum. Now, if it's going to be a good fit to get over to Sage Accounting, it may depend on why they're in that version. So if you're not sure if this is going to be a good fit even after we go through this webinar, then again, please feel free to reach out anytime. And of course, we can have one of our team members call you as well. So the following data can be migrated from your Sage 50 file over into your Sage Accounting file: your business information, your customer and your vendor contacts, your chart of accounts, including your opening balances, your bank accounts, including outstanding balances, your customer and vendor invoices, and all transactions recorded in Sage 50 from January 1st, 2014. Now you'll notice it says January 1st, 2014. If you were migrating a file over that was older than January 1st, 2014, essentially it would be an open balance at that point, and then all of the transactions going forward. But you may not be able to move your data to Sage Accounting if you've experienced one or more of the following. So first of all, if you have the file set to cash accounting as opposed to accrual, if you have recorded transactions using a foreign currency, so Sage Accounting does have multi-currency invoicing, but it does not yet have multi-currency banking. If your company's address is outside of Canada, if you've used specific features in Sage 50 2019.1 or later. So again, one of the really cool things about Sage is that we are continuing to develop our desktop products, absolutely, and especially the cloud connected features of our desktop products like Sage 50 2019.1, where we introduce some additional tools like debit notes and credit notes and the such. So essentially, when we see brand new features coming through Sage 50, it just takes us a little time to then rejig the migration tool to migrate those new features as well. Okay. So the following data will not be migrated. So it will not stop a migration, but it simply won't be included in the new company file. As I mentioned, transactions prior to January 1st, 2014. Again, just a reminder, if you do have an older file, then it will come over as opening balances as of that date. Your inventory, items, and services. Now, Sage Accounting does have products, or stock, non-stock, and services, but it does work quite differently than the inventory, items, and services in Sage 50. So you can bring over all of your transactions and then basically reset up, and of course you can import those lists as well, all of those items, so that you can buy and sell by product. Your payroll and your employee data, your Sage 50 attachments, timesheets, jobs, project codes, quotes, sales orders, purchase orders, and custom tax codes. Now let's just go over these a little bit as well, because I don't want you to think that Sage Accounting can't do any of these things. Again, it's just because it does it a little differently. When it comes to jobs and product codes, we actually have something in Sage Accounting called analysis types. And so there it actually allows you to categorize your different transactions in different ways, as well as group your contacts and lists in different ways as well. So it's actually a really powerful tool. Again, it just doesn't work quite the same as Sage 50. Your quotes, there are quotes and estimates in Sage Accounting, and of course your custom sales tax codes. We've been doing an awesome amount of work in the custom sales tax code area within Sage Accounting, and so we're going to continue to see development there as well. So what are some of the things that you need to do within your Sage 50 file to get it ready for the migration? First of all, pick a date for the migration. Typically, this is the beginning of a new accounting period, but not necessarily. And it may not even necessarily be at the end of a fiscal year, especially if you know that you're able to bring over all of your data. You may want it to be on a GST end, where so if you file monthly or quarterly, then you may want to make sure that it's done on one of those so that there is a little bit of cleanup that's done in the Sage 50 file before you bring it over. But the idea is to pick a date, plan for it, and then go ahead and use the migration. We're going to reconcile your bank accounts to make sure that the only thing that's left outstanding are your most recent transactions. And we want you to print some Sage 50 reports, like your trial balance. Now, when I say print, this could also be export, not to waste paper. Trial balance, balance sheet, year-to-date income statement, your customer aged report, your vendor aged, and your account reconciliation. And the reason why we want you to do this is so that when we bring your data over to Sage Accounting, we want you to check those financial statements against your existing Sage 50 ones, just to make sure that everything migrated exactly how you wanted it to. And just also good to know that when you migrate your data from Sage 50 to Sage Accounting, that original Sage 50 data set, it still exists. So nothing gets removed or replaced, that still exists. If you have a migration that doesn't work, that's okay. We can always go back to the main file. And you want to make sure that you verify the user rights for the sysadmin user. We want to make sure that you have read-write access, because essentially this is the functionality that you're going to be doing when you do the tool, when you use the tool. So Marilyn, we are ready for our fourth and final polling of this session. If you want to go ahead and do that.
Absolutely. Okay, folks, this is your fourth question, and remember you need 3 or 4 answers for 1 verified PD credit. Nice and simple. If you'd like to have more information from Rachel and her team about migrating, answers are yes or no, or maybe you would like more information but just not about Sage 50 and Sage Accounting, and that's great too. Nice and easy poll question to end our session today. We're already at 90%. So folks, just get your last answers in. I'm going to count you down from 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1, and I'm closing that poll. So 12% of folks are interested in some more information, which is great. Thanks very much for your response.
That's fantastic. Thank you guys so much. And actually, I'm going to provide you with some of that information right away. Now, these next 2 tools, where I'm actually going to be running a video and describing the video as we go, because I really wanted you to see it in action. So let's go ahead. I'm going to press play. And again, what we're going to be seeing today is migrating Sage 50 data from Sage 50 to Sage Accounting. And so we need to be able to put it in a data format to accomplish that. Now, there is a tool that you need to download, and I can provide you with the link if you would like that as well. And once that tool is on your desktop, we're simply going to double click on it to accept the terms and conditions, of course, once you have read it thoroughly, I'm sure every word of it, and then go ahead to click install. At the end of the installation, you can see it on your desktop. You can click close so that it's there on your desktop for a later time, or you can go ahead and click launch right from this screen. After installing the migration tool, we're going to just double click on it to launch it. And on the left-hand side here from the wizard that opens, you can actually see all of the steps that you're going to need to complete. And again, all we're doing at this point is taking that Sage 50 company file tool and putting it in a format that Sage Accounting is going to be able to read. Remember when I said we needed to make sure we had read-write access for sysadmin? This is why, right here, we needed to be able to access that company file from a sysadmin profile. Confirm the information that you see with your company file. Now, any of this information can be changed once you go into Sage Accounting, but we at least want to make sure that we're verifying the right information. You can now view the information based on Sage 50 file and information from your fiscal year. If any of that information is incorrect, then you could go back to your Sage 50 file to correct. Select how many years you would like to migrate. And here you can see the records that will export and the ones that won't, just like the ones that we just talked about as well. Like the inventory items and the employee specific data will be excluded from the export, but it will not block the export. We need to now start mapping some accounts from the way that Sage 50 manages each of these items to the way that Sage Accounting manages some of these items as well. We can say display all of my items and I will go through and select how they're mapped, or just show me the ones that are not mapped. Use the categories that are listed there with the drop downs to select which account or which account groupings are going to be used for the migration, and then go ahead and click next. Here you can see that there are several that haven't been selected as mapped, although it will try to automatically do as many as possible. I like to click on not mapped so that I'm only worried about the ones that don't have a clear account path, and then go ahead and click next. You can go through each of the segments of accounts and make sure that all of them have successfully mapped. And again, these two can be changed after the fact within your settings options within Sage Accounting. Now we want to make sure that we're putting the final format of the data in a folder that's easily retrievable. You can use this screen to review any of your account mappings and make sure that they are exactly what you want to see. If they aren't, we can simply click back on the bottom left-hand corner to correct the mapping that you want to see. If everything looks like how you want, go ahead and click next. If there are any warnings or errors that happen throughout the migration, then you're going to see that once the export has been complete. We can see the view errors and warning report, or open the summary report to see what items have been blocked or are simply a warning. Here you can see that we've got the errors and warnings report, as well as the summary report, as well as what's considered the JSON file. So that is the file that the Sage 50 file has been converted into, and the one that we're going to be importing into Sage Accounting. So now everything is ready to go. As long as you're okay with the warnings that are given, you have the file now in the format that you're going to be importing into Sage Accounting. And we're actually going to go straight to the next one. So again, that step was taking the 50 file from a .sai, which is the company file format, to a .json, which is the one that can be imported into Sage Accounting. So now we want to get that into Sage Accounting. So let's do that by importing the data from that new JSON file directly into the Sage Accounting subscription. So that's what we're going to go over now. So you'll see the screen looks familiar from the screen that we just left, that everything is ready to go. We're okay with the warnings. We've viewed the summary report, and now we want to go straight to Sage Accounting. So you can either create an account or you can log in. You can buy from that link, or you can simply click Try Now. We're going to start the creation of a company file right here by entering your name, your email, your password, confirm your password, and of course here you can see the additional features that it needs. View and accept the terms and conditions and click Secure Account. At this stage, you're going to see two options. One is to create a brand new business, which we can import our lists, or the next is to use your Sage 50 data, which is what we want to do today. So you can see there we've got Get Your Data, download the migration tool. Now in our case, we had already done that step. We're on to the next step of uploading your data. Go to the file, or go to the folder where your file is created. And again, it's going to be that .json. Let's confirm that the business name and the product is correct, and then go ahead and click Continue with this data. Now we can see that the message indicates that the data is on the move, and we're going to start seeing that data in Sage Accounting. It can take up to 24 hours, but I think our average is considerably shorter in less than an hour. And you can see the email that the notification will be sent to when that data is good to go and the file has been migrated. Once that you've received the successful email saying that you're good to go, then you're prompted to go into your account to make sure that things worked correctly. If there's anything that happened with your migration that was not expected, then we can make sure that that's taken care of as well. So now let's go to your account so that we can view your data within Sage Accounting. And here we are. The first thing you can see is the file folder on the top with a successful migration report. Not only does it tell you that it was successfully completed, but it also gives you some really great tips on what next to do now that you have migrated your data. Things like checking your trial balance, your age, debtor, and credit reports, your chart of accounts, and some additional setup tasks as well. So this is why it's so critical to download those reports from Sage 50 so that when you view them in Sage Accounting, we can make sure that those reports have balanced. So we're going to go to our reporting center and review our profit and loss report. Select the date range that you want to compare it to for your Sage 50 and click calculate to show the totals. And then of course, we're going to compare that against what our P&L was in Sage 50. We're going to do the same thing with your trial balance report. If you set a really wide date range, then you can ensure it has all of your transactions exactly as what should match your Sage 50 trial balance report as well. And we do want to make sure that those are identical. So congratulations, we have now migrated your file. And that's really how easy it is. So again, thank you guys so much for all of your time. I would love to see any questions that you have, if I can get back to you after the webinar is over. And yeah, Marilyn, I think it's back to you now.
Thanks, Rachel.
You're welcome.
Back to you and I and Alan. I'm just going to make
Alan,
you.
yes.
I'm just going to make you the presenter, Alan, so you can wrap up.
We have two paid webinars that I think you'd be interested in. The first one takes what I was doing with you in PivotTables a lot further. It's called Mastering Pivot Table Calculations. And the other is working with the Excel data model, which is again an advanced feature. So when you get your package, if you're interested in either of those, you'll merely click on the link. So thank you to all in attendance. Thank you, Rachel. It was great. Thank you, Marilyn, for being my backup. It's a wrap.